This news center of the Sultanate of Oman television. But first, the headlines. Preparatory consultations for negotiations between Iran and the United States begin in the Pakistani capital Islamabad. The ceasefire agreement in all Iranian cities holds for the third day in a row. And Israeli raids continue on several Lebanese cities despite the U.S. President's directives to Israel to de-escalate, and Hezbollah responds with rocket barrage. Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. The world's attention is focused on the Pakistani capital Islamabad, where Pakistan is hosting renewed negotiations between Tehran and Washington. The U.S. and Iran are scheduled to begin negotiations tomorrow morning during the diplomatic window of a two-week conditional truce announced on Tuesday, more than 1 month after the start of U.S.-Israeli joint military strikes on Iran. Pakistan, which successfully brokered a temporary ceasefire agreement between the United States and Iran, stated that the atmosphere surrounding the negotiations is initially positive and that a permanent truce is possible. The Iranian parliament confirmed that its speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, is heading his country's delegation in the Pakistani negotiations, as Washington confirmed that it had dispatched U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance to lead its negotiating team in Islamabad. The Iranian side entered the talks with a series of demands, most notably the immediate and swift lifting of economic sanctions on Tehran, a halt to the wars in Iran and Lebanon, a payment of compensation for damages, and affirmation of Iran's right to uranium enrichment. In contrast, the United States set conditions, the most important of which were imposing restrictions on Iran's nuclear program and missiles capabilities, opening maritime navigation, and allowing the unrestricted flow of oil. And for his part, Vice President J.D. Vance said today he was looking forward to upcoming negotiations with Iran and that he expected the talks in Islamabad to be positive.
We're looking forward to the negotiation. I think it's going to be positive. We'll, of course, see. As the President of the United States said, if the Iranians are willing to negotiate in good faith, we're certainly willing to extend the open hand. If they're going to try to play us, then they're going to find that the negotiating team is not that receptive. So we're going to try to have a positive negotiation. The President has gave us some pretty clear guidelines, and we're going to see.
Vice President of the United States there. Israeli and Lebanese officials are expected to meet in Washington next week as U.S. President Donald Trump seeks to calm weeks of Israeli fighting with Hezbollah that has threatened to derail a fragile U.S.-Iran ceasefire. Both sides are under pressure from Trump to bring about an end to the fighting, a key demand by Iran in parallel talks due to be held tomorrow in Pakistan. The U.S. President added that Netanyahu agreed in a phone call with him on Wednesday to de-escalate the situation in Lebanon following the intense Israeli strikes. Meanwhile, Israeli military operations continued in the southern suburbs of Beirut and several areas in southern, eastern and northern Lebanon. For its part, Hezbollah announced that it had targeted Israeli army positions with rockets and drones, vowing to continue its attacks until the Israeli aggression against Lebanon ceases. The death toll from the Israeli bombing yesterday across Lebanon has exceeded 300 people as more remains were pulled from rubble and bodies identified at hospitals. The United Nations World Food Programme, WFP, said today it was stepping up its operations in Lebanon to help provide food for the nearly 1 million people who have been displaced from their homes. Despite the risks, the WFP has continued to send humanitarian convoys to southern Lebanon to villages on the border with Israel, which have been subjected to heavy bombing. According to a statement from WFP, 874,000 people in Lebanon were were already facing acute food insecurity before the latest escalation. The WFP said it provided emergency food and assistance to cover 440,000 people since the escalation began on March 2nd. Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a temporary ceasefire with Ukraine, a move aimed at a limited de-escalation of fighting lasting approximately 32 hours. The Kremlin called on the Ukrainian side to adhere to the ceasefire based on the principle of reciprocity, confirming a halt to hostilities on all fronts while maintaining a state of readiness. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced his country's readiness to abide by the truce, provided that Moscow does the same. These developments came amidst stalled negotiations between the two sides, despite international mediation efforts led by the United States, which have thus far failed to bridge the gap between Moscow and Kiev. And now, local news. The Sultanate of Oman in the Sultan Qaboos Higher Center for Culture and Science honored 40 teachers from Islamic Science Institute's Quranic schools. The Sultan Qaboos Institute for Teaching Arabic to non-native speakers and some members of educational administrative bodies, it came to highlight the role of teaching cadres in cultivating the knowledge and skills for students from various levels and programs in recognition for their efforts exerted in the field of education and preparing knowledgeable generation that will benefit the society. The honoring ceremony was held under the auspices of His Excellency Habib bin Mohammed Al-Riyami, chairman of the Sultan Qaboos Higher Center for Culture and Science. With a total investments volume of approximately 38.2 million Omani Riyals, Raysut industrial city affiliated with the public establishments for industrial estate Madain received 36 investments applications during the past year. Most of them were focusing on transformation industries, food and medication. Madain has successfully dealt with 8 stumbled projects by replacing them with qualitative ones in the targeted sectors. The total cumulative investments volume in the city exceeded 641 million Omani Riyals, representing a growth of 4% year on year. Under the patronage of His Excellency Dr. Abdullah bin Nasser al-Harrasi, Minister of Information, Al-Sharqiya University marked its annual University Day, highlighting a continuing journey of academic growth and institutional ambition. Here is more to run.
The annual day of the Al-Sharqiya University unfolded as more than a ceremonial occasion. It was a moment of reflection on a path steadily shaped by learning, research, and progress.
Today we have seen the Sharqiya University rise to the occasion, with so many achievements have been done on research and other fields. We have seen so many of the great researchers have been awarded best researchers, such as myself and my colleague Dr. Al-Hamza. And this shows that the Al-Sharqiya provide the environment which is great to do research, is supportive to its researchers, and ensure everyone have a fair and treatment of everyone. Alhamdulillah, many of the research that we have seen today was with students, and the number of research that have been published with students have increased tremendously, and this was only could be done due to the environment that Al-Sharqiya is providing.
The event brought into focus a year defined by achievement, while opening a window onto what lies ahead, where research continues to gain momentum, supported by increasing investment and a growing presence within global academic circles.
We are celebrating the University Day, which is a great reminder about our achievements and what we have achieved so far. It is also a chance to reflect on the prosperous journey that the university has been leading.
As the Sharqiya University moves forward with its 2026-2030 strategy, progress is ongoing, and the role of education remains central to shaping a knowledge-based economy. This celebration reflects the ongoing journey of the Al-Sharqiyya University to contribute to Oman's future through innovation, education and national development. Reporting from the Al-Sharqiyya University in the Wilaya of Ibra, this is Salih Bukhalfan Al-Rahbi, North Al-Sharqiyya Governorate.
You're watching the Southerners of Oman television, and before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Preparatory consultations for negotiations between Iran and the United States begin in the Pakistani capital Islamabad. The ceasefire agreement in all Iranian cities holds for the third day in a row. And Israeli raids continue on several Lebanese cities despite the U.S. president's directives to Israel to de-escalate, and Hezbollah responds with rockets barrage. And with that, we do conclude this news bulletin. Thank you for joining us, and goodbye.